Hello everybody, welcome back to the Young Fan Podcast and welcome to my Game Week 5 predictions. I'm pretty sure it's Game Week 5 and today I'm going to be predicting all the fixtures across this week of football. You're probably thinking, Jack, why did you pick this week? It's quite a strange week. You did the opening day, that made sense, but Game Week 5 sounds a little bit strange to me. That's because I need a bit of help from you. I'm planning on doing an episode of the podcast where I get every single team involved and I want to know, on paper, who is the best player from every single League One club. So I thought, to get everyone in the comments down below and trying to get as many people to comment who you think from your specific team is the best player on paper, let me know in the comments down below because I want to be doing that in a tier list and rank them based on their career stats, all that good stuff as well. So, yeah, I need to get you involved, basically. I thought, what could be the best video, sort of get everyone involved. I thought, well, we'll do a prediction one because I do enjoy doing the predictions. You seem to enjoy them as well, and it really gets me a good idea and gives me a good chance to listen and hear from you, the fans of every single specific club, and then you can give your thoughts. I know it's very, very opinion-based, and there won't be one definite answer, and people will disagree and agree, but that's the whole point of football conversation. No one can all agree with everybody, and that's why we love talking about football, really, because everything is completely down to you and your opinion. But I want to hear from you, the fans, as well, because I don't really just want to pick someone random who I think it is, because I don't watch your team week in, week out. So, of course, you know your team as the fans of that club more than I do. So please do get involved in the comments down below. Your team that you support, your best player on paper. Let me know right now. But keep watching the episode of the podcast because we've got lots of exciting stuff to get through. We're going to be predicting every single game. As I said, we're starting off with Burton Albion against Cheltenham Town. So, interesting games at the moment. Burton finds themselves sick. They did a very, very good start to the season. However, they lost against Cambridge 3-0 in the last game. So they were winning every game up to the last one. And Cheltenham, well, I mean, their season hasn't been unbelievable. They find themselves in 18th. They've been a little bit inconsistent. They've won a game. They've lost two, I think it is. And they've drawn one as well. So they've sort of been a little bit inconsistent, even though there's only four games gone. They've lost two, drawn one, and won the other. So it's been quite inconsistent from a Cheltenham perspective. And Burton have looked very, very good other than that last game. So in this game, on a Friday night, it's the first game, it's actually on a Friday, at 7:45, I think Burton have got enough. It's at home at Burton as well, so they will have that home advantage. They want to get back to winning ways after what is quite an embarrassing defeat against Cambridge. Nothing against Cambridge, just because they've looked so good and they've just fallen so heavily to their feet against Cambridge. They're going to get back to winning ways. Of course they are. I'm going to go with 2-0 to Burton Albion. But Cheltenham could surprise a few people, because if that's the sort of start of a crumble for Burton, we'll have to wait and see, won't we? Next, then, we've got Rotherham against Doncaster Rovers. Rotherham currently sat in 11th, and Doncaster having a stinking start to the season, who are in 23rd. They've lost 3 games and drawn 1 as well. So they haven't looked very good at all. They have not looked the team they did at the start of last season under Darren Moore. They've got a new manager in now, and he hasn't really got going, has he? Let's be honest, they haven't really got going. And as for Rotherham, they've looked okay, haven't they? They've looked okay. They lost to Sheffield Wednesday in that last game. They have lost 1 prior to that as well, but they won 2 in there as well. So 1-2, lost 2. It's a bit of an average start for Rotherham. They found themselves 11th, so just above mid-table. It's about right. I think Rotherham are going to beat Doncaster. I think they are. I think Rotherham have still got the squad to beat Doncaster. Looking at form as well, take that all into consideration. I think Rotherham are going to beat Doncaster. Let's go 2-0. Let's go 2-0 to Rotherham. I have my scoreline that I predicted in front of me here, but as I'm saying things, it's trying to influence different things as well. As I say all these different form out loud, I'm trying to not influence my decision too much. I think Rotherham are going to win against Doncaster. I'm going to go with 2-0. Cambridge United then against Bolton Wanderers. Bolton come in, both teams going with a win. I mean, Cambridge United beat Burton, like I said, I mentioned just a second ago, quite comfortably 3-0 at home. And Bolton won 2-1 at home against Oxford United. I went there and watched Bolton. They look like a really, really good side. They like to use their fullbacks a lot. They like to spread the play a lot. They play some really, really good stuff as well. I mean, they've had 2-3-3 draws. They can be a little bit defensively, can be quite leaky defensively. But I've got to be honest, in that game I watched them against Oxford United, they looked pretty good defensively, which is really, really interesting. As for Cambridge, they've looked okay, like I mentioned, but that really, really good result against Burton last weekend. It's really going to put them into some real confidence, and hopefully for them, it's going to real kickstart what is hopefully going to be a safe season for Cambridge after being promoted last year. But in this game, I fancy Bolton, but only just. Quite a close game, quite an interesting game. I'm going to go by Bolton to edge this one by 1-0. Next up, we've got Charlton Athletic against Crewe Alexandra. Really, again, both teams in the relegation zone as we speak. Charlton currently find themselves in 21st and Crewe find themselves in 22nd. Crewe have lost 3 on the bounce and so have Charlton. Both teams exactly the same form. They drew their first game and they lost the rest. So, going to be really intriguing to see what's going to happen here. Both of them are -4 goal difference as well. This is going to be quite an interesting game. I do think Charlton, though, are massively underachieving. Of course they are. They brought a lot of players in. They've got some good players in. They've got the likes of Sean Clef, Oxford United. I think he'll turn good with time. They've got some really good players at Charlton. I still think they've got a really good squad there. They signed actually the ex-Crewe man, Charlie Kirk as well, that winger who looked really good last season. So I still think Charlton will definitely push on, and they're going to be waiting to push on as well. Crewe as well, they do play some decent stuff, so they're hoping that they can push on. I did watch Crewe. They didn't look a great side at the moment. But again, like, things can change. Oxford United last season were in the relegation zone for so long in the season. We looked awful, and then we pushed on to finish in the playoffs. So these things can happen, and just because you're 4 games in, it's very early. But I do think when you look at 2 squads going against each other, Charlton are going to be desperate to start getting back to winning ways. I think Charlton are going to win this game. I'm going to go only just 2-1, but I can see it being 2-0. I think Charlton will win this game. It's at home. It's at the Valley. I'm going to go 2-1, but it could be 2-0 depending on how the game goes. But we're looking at form. Both teams, this could be quite a close game, but I'm going to go with 2-1. Next up then, we've got Ipswich Town, another team that's struggling a little bit like Charlton, against AFC Wimbledon. Ipswich find themselves 20th, just above the relegation zone, and their opposition AFC Wimbledon are currently in 14th. In the last 4 games, AFC Wimbledon, they started unbeaten in their first 3 and then lost last weekend. And as for Ipswich, they're yet to win a game. They've drawn their first game, lost 2 in the middle, and then drawn their most recent game as well. And their fans really are starting to put pressure on their manager. He hasn't been there long, Paul Cook, but again, you're waiting to hopefully see these players that have now come in the summer, because they did have a big rebuild when it comes to bringing players in. They could still bring a few more in now with a week left of the window. They're really hoping now that those players can sort of gel as quickly as possible. They're hoping they can gel and then push on and kick-start. Do I think it's going to be this game against AFC Wimbledon? When it comes to league table position, it suggests AFC Wimbledon have got more of a chance. But like I said, we're looking at the league table after 4 games. It's very early. So I'm going to go with Ipswich winning this game, but only by 1 goal. And I'm going to go Ipswich 1, AFC Wimbledon 0. Ipswich, any sort of points on the table when it comes to wins. Can they get their first 3 points of the season? They're going to be certainly hoping they can. Let's see what's going to happen, but I'm going to go with them edging this one against AFC Wimbledon by 1 goal to 0. But that'll be a very important important win for Ipswich fans, and I know they're desperate to try and get their first 3 points of the season. They should be. They've got a very, very good side. They're just not gelling yet, and I think that might be the issue. But when that comes, I think they're going to have a good season, similar to Charlton, I think. So next up then, we've got MK Dons against Accrington Stanley. Another really, really interesting game. After 4 games, Milton Keynes Dons are currently sat in 13th, and Accrington Stanley are currently sat in 4th. Of course, like I said, it's only after 4 games. But Accrington Stanley have won their last 3 games, while MK Dons have currently had the last 5 games, drawn 2, lost 1, and won 1 as well. So quite an inconsistent start for MK Dons. For Accrington Stanley, though, it looks like a really, really good start to this season. Looked a little bit sloppy after the first game, but then after that, they've really kick-started again. I think it's going to be quite an interesting game, because you've got Accrington Stanley, which I think on paper, I think MK Dons probably, I'd fancy MK Dons, but again, Accrington Stanley have looked better as well, and it's at home with MK Dons, so it's going to be quite a tight game. I'm going to go with our first draw, and I'm going to say 2-2. Quite high score. MK Dons, I think they've scored 8 goals this season and conceded 8 as well. So, yeah, going to be really, really interesting. I believe, I got here, Accrington Stanley have got 5, scored 5 and conceded 3. So both teams have scored goals this season. I'm going to go with a high-scoring draw, 2-2 in this one. Next, then we got Morecambe against Sheffield Wednesday. Sheffield Wednesday, of course, a team that are high-flying at the top of the table. They drew their opening game against Charlton, but since then have kick-started and won 3 on the bounce. Whereas Morecambe, on the other hand, so far they've looked all right, haven't they? A team that got promoted, I'm not going to lie, I don't know what I was expecting with Morecambe. I did predict them to get relegated, so I apologise, Morecambe fans. And so far, they're proving me wrong. It is, like I said, really early days. But after 4 games, they drew and won their first 2, and then since then have unfortunately lost 2 on the bounce. And this is not going to be an easy game for Morecambe fans, or Morecambe players, or anyone around Morecambe, really. But it is at home, and the fans are going to be demanding it, and going to be surely hoping and supporting their team as they would. It's going to be, I imagine it's a great atmosphere in there. And against Sheffield Wednesday as well, they're going to try and give everything they can, try and beat that 12th man against a team who are high-flying at the top of the league table. So for that reason, it's going to be really, really interesting. And for Sheffield Wednesday, again, like with Darren Moore and the great players they've got so far this season, they are proven to be a very, very good side. I think it's going to be really, really interesting. I think with Sheffield Wednesday as well, they haven't conceded a goal yet. I don't believe, if I'm looking at it right, and have scored 5. So they're yet to concede a goal. I really, really think this is going to be quite an intriguing game. But I think Sheffield Wednesday will edge it, and maybe not edge it. I'm going to go 2-0, which sounds like it's quite comfortable, but I think it's going to be 2-0. But again, the reason why I won't be more is I think Morecambe fans are going to be up for it. That everything around is going to be really up to try and stop a team that are high flying at the moment. So yeah, I'm going to go with 2-0 to Sheffield Wednesday. But watch out for Morecambe, because they could pose some serious surprises like they have done to quite a few teams, and a few teams already in this league. And next up then we've got Oxford United against Lincoln City, a team, of course, Oxford United, who I hate predicting results for, as I do support them. I'll be at the game. And against Lincoln City as well, again, we've got obviously they've got our old manager, Michael Appleton. He thankfully has recovered, I believe, all good, and he's now back on the touchline where he belongs, managing Lincoln City this season. And Lincoln City last season, of course, got themselves to the playoff final. Oxford United got knocked out in the semi. So this is going to be a really, really interesting game. And so far, Lincoln City find themselves in 17th. They drew and won their first 2 games, but like I said, I think it's similar to the other team, Morecambe, I just mentioned there. They've lost the last 2. For Oxford United, the first 3 games they're unbeaten with a draw and 2 wins, and then went to Bolton last Saturday, and unfortunately lost the game 2-1. So both teams come into this game with a defeat. Lincoln come in with 2, like I said. So this is going to be like I keep saying, like I said, it's going to be a really, really interesting encounter between 2 sides. Again, like I said, with 2 managers who play really, really good football. They play attacking football. They're going to want to keep the ball on the ground and start playing some good stuff. And like I said, I'll say it again. Let's count how many times I said that. Lincoln do like to play some really, really good stuff, and they've got good players as well. They look like of Scully, who are doing really, really well at the moment. They've got some really, really good players. And like I said, Oxford as well. They've got, they're going to try and get back to the first 3 games of the season where they were looking really, really good. I don't think they look bad against Bolton. I wouldn't say that. However, Lincoln City have looked good in the first 2, but in the last 2 they have struggled, slightly losing to Wycombe Wanderers, I believe, was the other game, and the other team were. Let me just wait a second. I knew it was Wycombe, and the one before that was Bolton. So interesting stuff. Both teams have lost to Bolton, so that's going to be really, really interesting. I'm going to go with a draw here. I'm going to go with Oxford 1, Lincoln City 1. Predicting Oxford to draw. I think that's safe. I think that's quite a safe bet there. And then next up, we've got Plymouth Argyle against Fleetwood Town. Going to be a really, really interesting count on this side. Plymouth have done really, really well this season. They lost their first game, but since then have gone on and gone unbeaten. They've won 2 and drawn 1 as well. And Fleetwood Town haven't had a great start to the season. They lost their first 3 and then won their last game as well. So both teams come into this game with a win. So going to be really, really interesting. For me, I do actually have a new series called All the Action, League One All the Action, where I react to the games and react to the goals. So I watch the highlights and break the games down. And I've been really, really impressed with Plymouth man, Hardy, I believe. He's a centre forward. He's looked very, very good this season from what I've seen of watching him. And I think Fleetwood Town, I've got to worry about him. I think he's a really, really good player, and I really like the look of him. So for that reason, and not just for that reason as well, I think Plymouth, when I look at their team, they've got a really good manager that likes to play football. I think this is going to be a game in which Plymouth are going to win. I quite often get told that I don't support and I don't believe in Plymouth as much as I should do. A lot of Plymouth fans say that I'm quite negative towards their football club. So everything about that, I apologise. But I think I am going to predict Plymouth to win this game. I really, really am. I think Plymouth are going to win this game 2-0 against Fleetwood. I know they've just won their most recent game, but I think they don't look brilliant, do they? They don't look absolutely brilliant yet. They won. They lost their first 3 games, but they did win the last one. So maybe that could be the confidence boost and the real sense of confidence and that mentality they want to try and bring in, and that momentum they want. Maybe it might be. I'm not entirely sure though. And I think when I look at the squad so far this season, Plymouth have looked really, really good. So I'm going to go with 2-0 to Plymouth in this game. So next up then, we've got Shrewsbury against Gillingham, and this is going to be a really, really interesting game because Shrewsbury are going to be desperate to get some points on the board, aren't they? They've had a really, really horrific start to that season. Let's be honest, they have not started the way they would have wanted, and they're going to try and get back to winning ways, or try and get on to winning ways for the first time this season. They have lost every single game since the start of the season, 4 games played and 4 defeats. For Shrewsbury Town, it's not a good start at all. As for Gillingham, they're currently sat in 15th spot. They've drawn 2, lost 1 as well. They didn't win a game in the first 3 games, and then finally won last weekend in their most recent game. So again, this is going to be really, really intriguing. On paper, you'd like to probably say that because Gillingham had a better start, they probably should win this game. And after Shrewsbury's really bad start, are they going to still be with the heads down, heads dropped, that sort of quite beaten mentality? I mean, after 4 games, you'd really hope it's not like that. But you just don't know the position that they're in, and you don't know where their head's at for the players. And like I said, you've got 40-odd games to be played in League One season. If your heads are gone and you've had such a bad start, you can still claw it back, but it's got to be done as quickly as possible. And your first 3 points of the season is massive. That can be the difference between having a good season and a bad season. Getting those early points on the board ASAP is massive, and they're going to be desperate in the 5th game to beat Gillingham, and it's at Shrewsbury. So the Shrewsbury fans, they're gonna know how important this game's going to be. The players will know how important this game's going to be. Everyone will know this is a huge fixture in front of the home fans. Let's get back. Let's get on to winning ways. Will probably be the mentality from a Shrewsbury point of view, and so it should be. And as much as now I'm saying that, I think Shrewsbury will really make this an interesting game because, like I said, they're gonna have that fan support, they're gonna have that backing. But at the same time, you can have all the backing in the world, but if you're not playing the way that you should be, and if Gillingham are going to come on there and with the way that Gillingham play, they like to do things under Steve Evans in a very, very different way. They can sometimes play and not cheat the way, but use different dirty ways of football and switch that into a positive to try and get those important points on the board. You just don't know what's going to happen. So I'm going to go the draw in this game, and it hurts me to say that because I do want to see the Shrewsbury fans in absolute limbs if they do win, because it would be a huge 3 points for them. But I think Shrewsbury are going to win the game. And I'm going to go... Sorry, I think it's going to be a draw. I think Shrewsbury could win the game, but I'm going to go the draw. And I'm going to go with 0-0. Not a great game. I'm going to go 0-0 in this one. The first 0-0 that I've predicted, I think. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Shrewsbury 0, Gillingham 0. And next up then, we've got Sunderland against Wycombe Wanderers. This is going to be an interesting game, isn't it? Sunderland, of course, having a really, really good start to the season. They have lost 1, but they've won the 3 games other than that only defeat. And as for Wycombe Wanderers, they're having a really good start to the season. Like I said, similar to Sheffield Wednesday, they've played 4 games. Played 4 games like the others and won 3 of those, and only drawn 1 in there as well. So really, this is going to be quite interesting. Both teams in the top 6 after this really quite early start to the season, after 4 games. And like I said, both teams as well, 3 wins. Both teams on 3 wins, but obviously the only difference is a defeat in there for Sunderland, and of course that is in contrast to a draw from Wycombe Wanderers. So again, this is going to be quite intriguing, quite interesting. Both teams want to get promoted. Wycombe got relegated last season. They're going to be desperate to try and get back into the league, and similar to Sunderland, not getting back in there. They do want to get back in there, but it's been a while, and they spent a lot of time in League One. So they're going to try and get out. And so far this season, they've done a good job of trying to give them the best opportunity, the best chance of that sort of success. So I think this game, it's at Sunderland, it's at the Stadium of Light, which is going to make it even more difficult for Wycombe. I can see Sunderland snatching this one. I'm going to go 1-0. I think it's going to be, again, quite a tight game. But I think Wycombe Wanderers away, it's going to be quite a difficult one. They have won games away this season, of course they have. But I think still, I think Sunderland have got this in the bag. I think they have. I think they're only just, like I said, they'll only edge it. But I think 1-0, it seems one of those sort of games. It's quite difficult grind of a game where you're going to have to put a real battle in. But I can see it being 1-0. And I'm going to go with Sunderland 1, Wycombe Wanderers 0. Finally, then, we've got Wigan Athletic against Portsmouth, another massive game. Of course, Wigan are currently 9th. They've drawn 1, lost 1, and won the remaining 2. And Portsmouth are currently sat in 3rd. They've had a really good start to the season. They've won 3 on the bounce. But of course, they drew their final game final game, the last game, in the last weekend. So it's going to be really, really interesting. Once again, I feel like I'm saying it's interesting for every fixture, but I think it is, because in League One, you don't know what you're going to get. You really don't know what you're going to get. They're all really interesting encounters between a lot of sides that really, really can pose a different, a real different side to every story. You don't really know what's going to happen. You can't, it's so difficult to predict. And doing these prediction episodes of the podcast and predicting these sort of fixtures is so difficult, because you cannot predict things already. I mean, already I'm looking back at my League One prediction. I'm predicting Charlton and Ipswich to be comfortably in that top six. I think predicted Ipswich to finish second. So, and they might still do that, but they're not having a good start at all. So predicting things in this league is so hard. But in this game, I am going to go with a draw. Another draw. I feel like I've got quite a few draws here, but I think Wigan, again, they're at home. They haven't had as good as Portsmouth, and they've had very, very good starts, don't get me wrong, but I think it's going to be a draw, and I'm going to go with 1-1 against Wigan. Wigan versus Portsmouth in this game at 3 o'clock. It's going to be one of those games, I think, where it's going to be two very, very good sides going against each other, putting each other to the sword, and really, really trying to go and win the game. Both teams will try and win the game, I believe that. I really think both teams will want to try and continue on what has been a very, very decent start to the season, but I think it's going to be a draw at the end of it. So I'm going to go with 1-1 in that game. So yeah, in conclusion, again, like I said, I can't predict the future, so I do apologise. I know a lot of people get a little bit frustrated when I predict people and predict their team to do better or worse than they think they are in their own way. But again, that's what football's all about, and that's what football podcast's all about. It's all about opinion. So I really do appreciate it. If you could leave a like and subscribe on the podcast episode, that'd be much appreciated. We're on the road now to 500 subscribers. Unbelievable stuff. Can you hit that subscribe button? That would be fantastic. Content like this coming across the season. Really, we're going to be League One, World of Football. Some really, really exciting episodes of the podcast coming very, very soon, and one of which I need your help in, which of course is in the comments down below. Your team's best player on paper. Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. I need every single team's best player. So yeah, please do that. Please get involved, and you might even get a cheeky little shout out in the episode where we do it. I might say I'll do that. When we go through it, I'll make sure that I read your name out if you put your team and I use that player for the podcast episode. Thank you very much. Thank you all for watching. I've been Jack. This has been the Young Fan Podcast. Take care, stay safe. I'll see you all in a bit.